Hello, I am Rizal Zulkapli and this is my ASEAN. And on this week's episode of Rizal's ASEAN, we'll be looking at social entrepreneurs and social enterprises in the region. The Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Centre recently launched Impact-Driven Enterprise Accreditation, or IDEA. The program is in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance to create change through social procurement and accreditation platforms. IDEA seeks to connect impact-driven enterprises, IDEs, with the resources and opportunities in the private and public sectors. Rizal's ASEAN had a chat with Magic's Executive Director and the man behind IDEA, Ehon Chan, discussing the local and regional social enterprises and of course, IDEA. So we'll start off with social entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurs. I think the word social entrepreneurship or the phrase social entrepreneurship is quite recent. People don't really talk about it or didn't really talk about it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but now there's a huge awareness when it comes to social entrepreneurship. What is or who is a social entrepreneur or what is a social entrepreneurship?
So I think that the term social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, and social entrepreneur itself has different meaning to different people. But the way that we've looked at it is that as long as you are working in an enterprise that's actually making money through trading, whether it's the selling of products or services, and at the same time creating impact. And when we talk about impact, we're talking about solving a social problem, not solving social inconveniences. You are essentially a social entrepreneur running a social enterprise.
So it's beyond dollars and cents, where entrepreneurs don't just look at that as a measure of their success in that sense.
It's actually both. So part of it is actually ensuring that you're running a sustainable business. But on the other side, you have to make sure that the impact that you set out to create is actually impactful and deep at the same time.
First, let's talk about how you were in Bangkok, Manila, and Jakarta recently. And I've heard that in Bangkok there are 12,000 social entrepreneurs, and we're still quite far behind. What interesting stories did you get when you were in Bangkok when it comes to social entrepreneurship and social enterprises?
So these countries are very different countries, and the way that they have supported social enterprises is quite different as well. Thailand has already set up a Thai social enterprise office since several years ago. And in Philippines, obviously because of the amount of social problems there are, the social sector in Philippines is very, very active. And when we talk about Indonesia is a very SME country. And when it comes to SME, a lot of them actually is in the grey area of social enterprise versus a private business as well. Thailand is slightly different because the involvement of government as well as the royal family in supporting NGOs as well as social enterprises is very, very vibrant. So it's created this very vibrant ecosystem for social enterprises as well as NGO in Thailand itself. And I think that that's the kind of leadership that we want to see here in Malaysia. Having said that though, the Prime Minister and as well as the various ministries in Malaysia has been very supportive towards social enterprises in Malaysia. Take for example, in 2013, the Prime Minister came out and announced a 20 million ringgit fund specifically just for social entrepreneurship development.
Is there a good formula that we can maybe replicate or look at to create more social enterprises and social entrepreneurs in Malaysia from your trip to Bangkok, Manila, and Jakarta?
I think that if you want to create a whole new sector, it requires the involvement of everyone. Both whether you're in education, whether you're in the corporate sector or in government sector as well. The important part is that everyone can do something to support social entrepreneurs or helping social enterprises scale up. So for example, if you're in the finance industry, a good way of supporting social enterprise is looking at, can we create loans that is specific or suitable for social enterprises? If you're in education, maybe it's about awareness and as well as training for social entrepreneurs. If you're in a corporate sector, you can look at how do you integrate products and services provided by social enterprises into your value chain so that you can increase the amount of social impact within your value chain as well.
So who should move first in this situation? Would it be government to sort of create calls to the private sector to move social enterprise to help social enterprises, or would it be a private sector-led or driven effort to help social enterprises?
I think it's both the grassroots as well as the government. If you look at any kind of new industry or any kind of new sector, oftentimes it's the grassroots kind of momentum or the grassroots interest in driving a sector forward or an industry forward that actually then gets the attention of the government.
Would that be faster?
Government can make it a lot faster. I think that the main thing is that private sector obviously main reason of existence, I wouldn't say, we're talking about generally speaking, is to maximize profit. Hence, anything that's too high risk is a bit of a no-no for them, right? Hence, government comes in to reduce that risk for private sector to then get involved in a new industry or a new sector. But the grassroots still has to be led by our rakyat.
And that's exactly what you're trying to do with IDEA, right? Maybe you can share with us this idea behind IDEA and where you're trying to get the private sectors to help out with the acquiring products and services from the social enterprises or social entrepreneurs.
So over the last 3 years since we established the Social Entrepreneurship Development Unit, we've seen a huge amount of social enterprises grow. In the last few years, we've incubated over 70 social enterprises. We've helped over 20 social enterprises grow. We've worked with various corporates. We've reached out to over 50,000 or 60,000 young people to get them aware about what social enterprise is. We've worked with journalists as well as media as well to also make sure that they create stories so that social enterprise can be a mainstream topic that people discuss. And along the way, a lot of corporates say, hey, I want to get involved, but how do I get involved? What's the easiest way to get involved? And we're like, hey, you procure all the time, right? So instead of creating new fund or new capital for the social sector, you can easily include the social impact within your value chain itself through your procurement. Anything from F&B to corporate gifts to your daily business administration kind of stuff, you can now procure from social enterprises. So with that, we started thinking about then what is stopping private sector from procuring directly from social enterprises. And we hear both sides, right? The social enterprises say, well, we want to work with the corporates, but we don't have enough financing in place to be able to finance out the orders that they want. On the other hand as well, they don't have enough credibility as well, which the private sector going like, well, you're still a very, very small company. We don't feel comfortable, buying from you immediately. On the other hand, the private sector was saying that, how do we know that they're legitimate social enterprises? How do we know that, they can fulfill our orders, and so on and so forth? So the idea of IDEA, Impact-Driven Enterprise Accreditation, is to create that accreditation and giving that credibility to the impact-driven enterprise. Companies that create jobs for B40 groups, companies that provide income for B40 groups, companies that help empower communities who are marginalized, companies who help solve environmental issues. We give them credibility, and then we work with our corporate partners to shift their procurement guideline a little bit to then procure from these social enterprises. And we built a digital platform where this corporate can get connected immediately to these social enterprises through just browsing what they want to procure. And that way, so we're positioning private sector as a driving force for social impact as well. And they're able to then include human value, social value into their value chain.
Let's go back to the region, yeah? When you visited these countries, Thailand, Philippines, and also Indonesia, did you see social enterprises playing or closing or using their capabilities to maybe close the gap when it comes to access to education, healthcare, and also other things that the government should have maybe provided to the people?
I think it's really hard to say, the things that government should have provided for the people, because I think that depending on which nation and the national development agenda as well as the national economy, each government has different focus. Some focus more on infrastructure, places like Philippines where they face a natural disaster every few days. The government obviously have to focus on all these disaster issues as well. Having said that though, every time there is a gap within the social issue space, you can see either NGO or social enterprises come in immediately to try to do something. And for me, that's what's really exciting. And sometimes it's just an experiment, right? They work with local communities and eventually figure out a way to create a business model out of it.
On that note, let's end this conversation with this question, yeah? Because I think you came back from Australia or London to work at Magic. And beyond national service, why do you think now is the best time for young people to be in ASEAN?
Wow, okay. So I've mentioned a few things a few trends, if you can call them, or a few things that we're observing that's becoming more and more relevant for young people in ASEAN. I think, you know, when we look at the potential of the future, let's look at the assets that we have existing. Number one, majority of ASEAN are young people. More than half of ASEAN are young people under the age of 30. Secondly, of the 3 billion people at the bottom of the pyramid, majority of them are in the Asia region, right? Especially in China and India. But even ASEAN itself has a lot of social problems that we have not solved, or we haven't even come close to solving. When we look at the movement of capital, when it comes to investment, impact investment, and so on and so forth, a lot of people are now all eyes on ASEAN. Second, and also the other part that we're seeing as well is that as more and more countries looking at experiencing low growth, they're looking to ASEAN as a potential partner, as a very important partner as well, to help them grow their economy as well, to ensuring that their import and export continues to be balanced and they rely on ASEAN itself. So as young people, we actually have a lot of opportunities in front of us. The only thing that's stopping us are a couple of things. One is our skills and the amount of digital literacy, as well as our imagination to be able to invent new things, create new products, new services, new business model, to tap into all these opportunities that are coming our way. And secondly is the amount of cognitive capital of our young people that we have not fully utilized. We have put them in structured education that actually makes them all, you know, come out about the same, right? We're creating this manufacturing type of education. So we need to start also shifting the way we look at education, the way we bring up our children, so that we can unleash that brilliance of our younger generation, so that they can become the next inventors, the next big entrepreneurs, the next scientists who invent drugs and so on and so forth. All these active citizens, I call them active citizens, who then be able to tap into opportunities that can be brought by all this technological advancement, all this economic growth, all these social problems that we currently face.
And that's all the time we have for this week. Stay tuned, we have more insights into ASEAN on Rizal's ASEAN next week and the week after. I'm Rizal Zulkapli for Rizal's ASEAN.